has officially passed Blood Wave on the Necromancer Pit leaderboard. The current highest pit clear for Blood Spear is 111. Blood Wave is also 111, but the Spear did it faster. And me, myself, I'm already up to a Pit 108 playing Blood Spear, and this build is absolutely amazing. It does unbelievable amounts of damage, even with like low investment gear. But if you're in the top end, high end gear, and you want to get the highest pit push possible, and you want to level up your glyphs, speed farm Pit 100s, then this is the build for you. A lot of you guys have been asking for super powerful builds that can push really high, and here you go. So let's start out with talking about the main thing that makes this build work, which is the Endiria's Memory Pants. Now, these pants are going to make Bone Spear into a blood skill, so this means it's going to benefit from all the blood multipliers. When paired with the Bone Duster's aspect, we're going to be getting a guaranteed overpower as long as the enemy is inside of a bone prison, and we're going to be getting a huge damage multiplier on top of that. So this ends up being significantly better than builds like Blood Lance or Blood Surge for pit pushing because it overpowers every single attack of the Blood Spear. This is an absolutely incredibly powerful interaction, and is what leads this build to doing so much damage because it's able to benefit from, you know, things like Rathma's Vigor and Bloodbath, allowing it to get access to ginormous multipliers that are usually only accessible by blood skills. And it can also run things like Compound Fracture and Avulsion for additional huge multipliers because it is still a bone skill. And then the Bone Spear itself now, for whatever reason, has a 40% crit damage multiplier that also restores life whenever it overpowers. All of these things together lead to a build that does absolutely stupid amounts of damage, is really fun to play, and can clear ridiculously high pits. Oh, and did I mention this build is completely immortal? The thing is, when you're pushing these high pits, immortal, and so you have to die so you can reset the dungeon. It is hard to die on this build. I'm walking into every single thing on the ground. I'm pulling as many mobs as I can on top of me. It is genuinely hard to die, and it is straight up impossible to die as long as you have up Soul Rift, because this skill is so broken. It gives you so much regen, so much barrier. Everything about this build is just incredible. So let's talk a little bit about the gear and some optimizations and some things people have figured out. Actually, you know what? Let's start by talking about boss powers, because boss powers are really interesting. So the meta right now with boss powers is for your main power, you run Lord Zir's Blood Pool. This actually has a lucky hit chance. So what happens is, specifically against bosses, we need as many corpses as we can get in order to proc the corpse component of our Naria's memory, right? Because right here at the very bottom, it says that Bone Spear is additionally a blood skill that consumes a corpse to launch a Bone Spear from it, draining 10% of your maximum life on hit. So with this blood power, we're going to be spawning extra corpses against bosses, which allows us to get a very nice damage multiplier because, you know, we're able to get the extra corpses. We're also running Harbingers of Hatred's Volley, which is a really nice damage multiplier. And then we're running Wandering Death's Chest Beam for the execute, right? Because the pools are always out, so enemies are going to be getting executed. Because boss's health has been nerfed, a huge percentage of the dungeon is now just like happening in the first half, right, against the white mobs, and so this execute is really important, and it does work against elites. Now for your final power, I'm currently playing Sharpshooter's Eye, but the best option is actually Flesh Reaper's Disruption, but it requires a specific setup on gear. So real quick, so the Sharpshooter's Eye is just a 20% multiplier based on how far away enemies are, simple enough, but the Flesh Reaper's Disruption is also a 20% multiplier, but it's not conditional. But on gear, we need to get crowd control duration bonus. Now, I'm not currently playing this setup, but I'm going to explain to you how it works and why it's so strong. So on your boots, instead of running this corpse tendril size, you want to roll crowd control duration, and then you want one masterwork on crowd control duration. This is going to give you enough multiplier just from your boots to fully max out the Flesh Reaper's Disruption. Now, on your necklace, which is where you might be thinking, well, I can run it on my necklace or my gloves. Why would I run it on my boots? Well, because you need to masterwork it once to max it out. And on your gloves, you need to max out Bone Spear with your masterworks. And on your necklace, you need to get Tides of Blood or one of your other passives. So the end result, right, is that you end up being able to get this 20% multiplier in exchange for one roll and one masterwork on your boots, and it ends up not being very competitive. So then on your necklace, And your gloves, you're going to be rolling corpse tendril size, and if you do it right, then you should be able to max it out. Now, I need a new necklace, but this is the idea of the combo. So, we are also running a really powerful rune word combination, Awu Quax. So, Awu is going to generate points whenever we hit a non-healthy enemy. And you can see we're hitting enemies lots of times. We have the bone shards, we have the extra bone spears, and that's going to lead to tons of hits, which are going to give us tons of procs of this, which is going to give us tons of procs of Quax. So Quax is whenever you cast a skill other than a basic or defensive skill, drain all of your resource to double your damage. This is really, really powerful because, you know, we can do these huge pulls with like 30, 40 mobs, and we're going to be proccing this constantly. So what we end up doing is on our weapon, we roll chance to restore primary resource. This is enough to generate like infinite resource in tune with the Awu procs, and we're able to constantly pay this cost every time we get the proc. This is also going to lead to a situation where against bosses, you particularly want bosses that are going to summon adds when you're doing really, really high level pits. So next, let's talk about like gear rolls and optimizing your gear setup even more. Like, what should your masterworks be? What kind of rolls do you need to find on your gear? How exactly do you optimize this build fully? So on your helmet, the maximum resource and armor rolls do not matter at all. They do nothing for the build. The only things that you care about are chance for Bone Spear to cast twice and plus ranks to Bone Spear. The chance to cast twice is the most important stat on this item, and you need to triple masterwork it. You can see right now mine's only double, but you really want a triple. And the secondary roll is also really important. You want this to be as close to maximum as possible. On your chest piece, the Shroud of False Death, everything maximum life, your masterworks and your GA. If not maximum life, you can get all stat, but everything else is useless. On your gloves, okay, the gloves are super important. The Bone Spear ranks, these are very expensive gloves right now because it's so strong. These gloves are so rare, but it's really strong, okay? So if you can get these gloves with the triple masterwork on Bone Spear, you're going to be golden. But if not, like, you can do Pit 100 with way worse gear than what I'm showing you, right? Like, I did a Pit 108, which is like 5 times harder than a Pit 100 or something. I don't know the exact number, but I think it's actually about 5 times harder, actually. So anyway, and in this, we're also going to be running Grasping Veins, which is going to cap out our crit and give us some extra damage. On our pants, okay, overpower damage and damage reduction while injured don't matter at all. People are wasting so much gold, by the way, and so much time on their helmet and pants looking for these items that don't matter. And even the secondary, like the unique affix, does not matter on pants. All that matters is maximum life and Tides of Blood. And you do want all of your masterworks into Tides of Blood if possible. On your boots, we're going to be running Decrep Aura so that we can automatically decrepify enemies. And we want int and max life GAs if possible, with priority given to intelligence. On our weapon, it's going to be int max life GAs if possible. And then we want blood attack speed and Titan's Fall. And Titan's Fall is the best stat on this item. You want to triple masterwork Titan's Fall if you can. This is a huge damage multiplier, especially against elites. Like, well, only against elites, but particularly against the boss. Because against the boss, we have so much less targets for the Awu. This build ends up doing significantly better on trash than it does on boss. So getting these Titan's Fall ranks are really important for speeding up your boss kill time. And again, we're talking about really high level pits, right? If you're talking about like Torment bosses, these are all going to die in like 1 second. On the necklace, we're looking for Tides of Blood and percent intelligence. Those are the 2 most important things. And for your third one, you can look for Evulsion or any other multiplier. On your ring, we're going to be looking for int max life attack speed, and then ultimate cooldown reduction is pretty okay, and we want blood attack speed. On the RSS, we care about core skill ranks and attack speed. Nothing else matters. And so you can kind of see, right, how this build is working. We have tons and tons and tons of damage, guaranteed overpowers on every single attack, loads of multipliers for our overpowers, and ultimately you end up with a build that just does ludicrous amounts of damage. The Paragon board is just normal Paragon board stuff. It's nothing super interesting. Book of the Dead is all normal, skill tree is all normal. So the way that you want to play this build, so first of all, you want to always have on Soul Rift all the time, right? It's so overpowered. You want to walk up to enemies to make sure your cursed aura goes on them. You're going to attack once, which will spawn corpses. Then you're going to cast Grasping Veins, and then you're immediately going to cast Bone Prison on top of the Grasping Veins. And then you can see, well, I waited too long without attacking, which you can see then my Soul Rift goes down, which is unfortunate. But, like, you can see now, like, with everything ramped and running, you can see that we're doing, like, hundreds and hundreds of billions of DPS. just absolutely melting this boss. As part of this, make sure that we're going around and we're picking up blood orbs, because every time we pick up a blood orb, we're going to be getting a 10% damage multiplier, stacking up to 50%. So then you just kind of keep casting Grasping Veins like every 4 seconds. Keep up your Bone Prison. Cast Soul Rift when you need to keep it up all the time, and then just make sure you every once in a while walk in, tag enemies with your curse. One thing you're going to notice when you're first playing this build is you're frequently going to have different abilities fall off, like your cooldowns won't reset when you're bossing, and the reason is because you are not cursing the boss, and so you're not getting the cooldown resets. Now, one other thing I do want to mention is that you can run with Blight, specifically, what is it called? You can run with Supernatural Blight for 20% multiplier. I don't do this when I'm seed farming, but when I'm pushing, I do run it, and it does add quite a bit of damage. So overall, you can kind of see how the build is working, right? You just kind of, you know, keep up Grasping Veins, keep the enemies inside of Bone Prison, spam Bone Spears, and just do hundreds and hundreds of billions of DPS. So that's going to do it for today's video. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you enjoy this super overpowered build. And I will say, you know, this build sucks for farming. If you want to farm, play my Blood Surge build. If you want to pit push, play this build. I play both. These are the 2 builds that I play, and it's enough to cover like the entire game, right? You just have these 2 builds. Both are really OP. They're just really OP at different things. So that's going to do it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.